So I've used my kids for that. I'm like, here, swipe this. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who's living his best furry life through video games, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Doing pretty good. I don't know what you're talking about. Never,
All right. Well, we'll have to see.
never been a
This will come up
furry.
when we talk about the games you play later today. So,
My
all right.
my PlayStation username has nothing to do with any of that. So, you know, no, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, um, yeah, that the
I
yeah,
said it years ago. This is a judgment-free zone. This is your safe place. We won't, well, we'll judge you, but we judge out of
I
love,
judge.
not out of hate.
This is not a judgment-free zone because I'm in this zone and I'm judging. Um, I no, the furry thing is just it. I think it can all be traced back to uh, Space Jam and what is her name, Lola Bunny or whatever.
What are you talking about? You're talking about Bugs Bunny in the old school Looney Tunes back when it was probably the opera one, right? Flight of the
Well,
Valkyrie.
well, there's a lot. Well, yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are influenced, I think, by Lola Bunny and Space Jam because Lola Bunny and Space Jam is is too much. It's just she's just
So you're
too.
saying she's a teen in PG-13? Okay, Roger that. Okay.
She's definitely the teen. She's definitely like the like barely 18. And that, I think the movie's actually PG, but yeah, I'm pretty
Probably.
sure that all the furry stuff, can be traced back. At least that was probably a big jumping off point. I think for a lot of people.
All right. Um, so Nick, speaking on behalf of a lot of people. All
I
right.
speak on behalf of all mankind.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's do some news. What do we got for us, Nick?
Let's do some news. First up, NetEase, the developer of Marvel Rivals, surprisingly, uh, has laid off the Seattle branch of the company, including the game director and several others, um, which is surprising because of the success of Marvel Rivals. People are kind of like, why are you guys laying people off when you have this game that has what I think I read that it had like 10 million players in the first 3 days, so it's probably a kind of a rubber bandy sort of number there, but it's a hit, by pretty much any metric. Kind of out of the middle of nowhere too, so people are like, what is going on? They have an explanation for it, about it being administrative, blah 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 blah. So it is kind of weird, but I also do sort of understand that, like, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on at companies, especially ones that are charged with, that are big enough to be charged with handling a Marvel property like that. So it sort of makes, it's I can see how there's room for it to make sense in some way, shape, or form, but it is a little bit odd. Um, and then there's a second part to this, but maybe you want to weigh in on this first part.
Yeah. So it's just the way they came in. It's very much. It just makes them look bad because everyone knows the momentum is currently an upswing. It's everyone's very high on this game. There's a lot of decent things being spoken about it. You can see the influence everywhere. A lot of people who usually don't play a lot of video games, or at least don't even talk to, like won't really talk much about it. This has been a very much a popular one. And when they did announce it, they also went, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's some new Fantastic Four DLC coming out." Blah blah blah. It's just like, yeah, trying to bury your lead. Also like, just it's it very much like, I don't know. You're rewarding hard work with a sudden like firing. It's just it's it makes the industry look bad as a whole because now it's just like you can't. It kind of reminds you of Tango GameWorks and Microsoft what they did with them last year. Granted, Tango ended up getting acquired by a different company, and so most of them are okay. But still, like after winning awards and doing so great and being touted, and then Microsoft, fumbling that, being like, "Well, we want games, small experiences with that win awards," and we're like, "Hey, that's what we just did."
Yeah,
Um,
sort of like,
you know,
well, we just did that, so
yeah,
why are
yeah,
you
and then
firing us?
oh,
Oh,
we
because
did the thing you
yeah,
anyways, Microsoft screwed up a lot, and but other games doing like, "Hey, you did well for us. Great, we're gonna let you go now." Imagine if they did that with Call of Duty, right?
yeah.
You know, let it, letting them like their group go, just like, "Yeah, yeah, we have two of you. We don't need two of you. We can just do with one team, right?" I don't know. It's just like no one is safe, and that makes for an unstable work environment. Just there's no loyalty, there's no. I mean, you couldn't have them pivot to something else because they have more games underway. I mean, they have a new Harry Potter game supposed to be coming out with through NetEase. It's Magic Awakened. They have, let's see here, allegedly they have a Tom and Jerry game coming out. I mean, still NetEase being a weird, they used to be a nobody. They've kind of really come into their own, and uh, they have the money to kick around. You can't say they don't. But business being business, yes, it's not personal. Well, if you're firing people and they literally need that money to survive, that it becomes personal. Maybe not personal for you, but it's personal for someone else.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of an interesting way to put it. I mean, like with business and stuff like that, it is always like, and there's never a good time to lay anybody off. It is kind of weird that it is right now, but but it's one of those things where it's just like that there's probably more to the story, and there's probably just poor timing and all this stuff. There was a second part to this, and I think it might shed a little bit of light, at least it kind of does to me, on maybe why this is happening. And that is that there's another news story that came out that that they almost canceled Marvel Rivals. So in one way, it's like, well, okay, so now you're putting out this story to kind of cover over why, give a good reason for why you may have needed to lay people off. But basically, according to the story, the people at NetEase were apprehensive about using about using Marvel characters, not because they're Marvel, but the word kind of licensed characters. Apparently, they wanted to use original characters or whatever with whatever they're working on, but they got kind of told that it was going to be licensed Marvel characters, and so they were like, yeah, and so they kind of tried to cancel it. This is coming from IGN, and it has a funny headline or whatever. It says like, or it says the canceled cancellation actually cost them millions. I don't know if it was really millions or whatever, but basically the their attempt to cancel the game ended up costing them money in some way. So that hesitation, maybe that led to other problems in other places, and despite the success of the game, just couldn't handle having that branch open or whatever. And a lot of times it has to do with the pipeline of work. It's the people at the top are not sharing everything that's going on, and they can see sometimes a year, 2 years down the road, and they go, this, like, we have work for this branch right now, but we don't have work for them, in a year, and we have to, consider that. So we have to, shrink everything down, probably overload um, the other branches that we have for 6 months until things smooth out a little bit. But then we'll have enough work at that time. So it's it's tricky, and it's ugly, and nobody likes to see it. I kind of think that I don't know if with all these layoffs have been going on for a long time. If I was to be in game development, the way that I would look at it would be as seasonal work. I mean, it's crazy to say that about like computer development or whatever software development, but it's kind of seasonal work, and you need to at least the way that I would look at it would be to go, okay, this project, I need to look at jumping over to the next thing as soon as this project is halfway done because I could get laid off at any time at that point because they can get somebody else to do it or something or other. So I'm wondering if that line of work is going to go back to that sort of a mentality because you know it's just so insecure.
Yeah, for sure. The looking at it as more of a contract situation, because and that's unfortunately a lot of people do get stuck in that where it's just like, no, you're going to be contracted help because that way you don't get all the benefits as a full time employee, and we can let you go much easier that way.
Mm,
Um, you know, not everywhere has the extra reinforcement or the help that you would want them to have as far as a contracted employee. Some places are better about providing benefits and even just medical stuff like that. But when it comes to NetEase, like I said, they've been doing good for themselves for a while, or and as far as using the Marvel IP, I mean, they made two prior mobile games to this. They made Marvel Duel and let's see, Marvel Super War, which looks like it was both published and developed by them, strictly a mobile game. But then they have like they co-developed or co-published. I'm sorry, co-published 505's Bloodstain. So, that came out, that did pretty well for themselves. So they probably got themselves a decent, like, chunk of money
Well,
there.
it's funny that you bring
Uh,
that up because it's like, well, they couldn't have been too apprehensive because they've already done this twice with the Marvel stuff. It sounds like, so it's like,
Now the only thing
uh,
is they made it going from a mobile to Marvel mobile games to being a full fledged like real big boy game as it were, air quotes. So the I understand if they screw up, it could really backlash a lot. But it's in this case, I mean they have a history of making decent things and publishing. They have a good foundation. Um, Now, yes, it's common to trim the fat for other company studios because they have locations everywhere. Um, and other thoughts that behind it is, possibly, future tariffs and future issues, taxes and stuff like that, possibly behind the scenes. We're like,
mm,
well, a US branch may not be the most beneficial for us right now. It's like, while we still have, ones open up in Japan, Korea, and stuff like that. Uh, yeah, it's an unfortunate, system, and it's not gonna get any better anytime soon. It's just, looking at the record of a lot of companies letting people go all the time. Um, no one is safe, essentially, is all it is to it, and it just unfortunately brings anxiety to the table, and unless if you own your own company, um, yeah, there's not really much else you can do about it. So, uh
mm.
luckily the director, like, he had mentioned, he had like said this on a tweet and then was to being like, hey, I'm going to give posts and try to reach out for a lot of his talented staff, try to get them situated. But that's a hell of a way to kind of come crashing down. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunately not a lot of places. It's it's like a lot of places don't give you a good wind up being like, hey, you got like a month or something like that. A lot of places could shutter the doors pretty quick, or like it's
Well,
like, let's rip off that band-aid as soon as possible. uh
well,
yeah.
that and I mean, it was probably going to change too. Is the severance packages are just going to are going to I mean, that's probably one of the reasons for the big push in game development to unionize and stuff like that. Because a union could be like, okay, if you're going to lay people off, then you've got to provide. Then they need to know what the severance package is before, and so it's like, okay, if the severance packages get better, then it's like, okay, you have we have. I mean, I have a high chance of getting laid off, but I have 6 months to find something else before my paychecks stop running out, or however long it is. That would at least help you to be like, okay, I feel a bit more comfortable um, in that line of work. I think I lost
Yeah,
you.
good
Okay.
luck to those out there, and
Yeah.
hopefully that everyone lands on their feet and finds something better. I mean, obviously, talented team, very everyone In fact, I just got uh, 2 other people ended up talking about this at a local kid's birthday party that I went to, and 2 of the dads were like, "Yeah, talking about Marvel Rivals," and I'm like, "Yeah, I haven't gotten into it. I was kinda burnt out from Overwatch." But they're like, "Yeah, you should really give it a shot, blah, blah, blah," and I'm like and so
Everyone,
it's just kind of
everyone says it's
just
great and it's like Overwatch but better or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. Shooters on a controller. I know that they're pretty good, nowadays. I mean, they're made for controllers now, but it's still just kind of weird to me. And I don't know. I I tried to like Overwatch a couple times, and there were things about it that just didn't really. The gameplay for some reason just didn't really catch me right. I keep thinking about trying Marvel Rivals because it's free to start or whatever. So um,
It's all about who you for me, it's about who I play with. I
yeah,
don't play any of those games, solo.
sure.
I mean, even if it's a competitive game or if I'm having to go against other people, I'd rather talk to the people I'm playing with, and have that fun banter. Um, and that's what made Overwatch at least interesting and fun at the time because, my wife and I would play the game together, and we would be able to anything stupid happen, we'd be able to just yell at each other because we don't play with mics. We don't talk to any of the other people online,
Mm,
and we'd at least be able to call things out just within the room, which is nice. And when we both can't play, then I prefer not to really. If I'm not playing with a friend online, then I'm not playing the game. I just don't find the joy of just setting up with a bunch of randos trying to do the same type of missions, that kind of mission style. It's like trying to play Helldivers solo. I couldn't do that. I could probably, but I just probably wouldn't want to. Helldivers is a group experience for me, and, so anyone who plays it solo is weird, Nick. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, no, it's
it's definitely
a different experience.
like whenever I play it solo, whenever I play Helldiver solo, I really don't ever go for anything particularly difficult. Um, and I think also automatons are kind of made to be played more, so they're a little bit easier to be played solo. The other two, the I want to say Tyranids, but the bugs, and then the eye one with the that swarm you, the zombies. Anyway, those are much harder for me to play solo. But like whenever I get into that zone, I'm just kind of like, or whenever I go in there, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to kind of tune out and just sort of, oh, here's this kind of base, and you kind of just do that. And so it's actually a little bit relaxing because you don't have to hurry, you don't have to worry about what somebody else is doing, and I just basically use it as like a level grinding kind of thing. So that's sort of the mind space that I go into. Whereas when I play with other people, it's more like, okay, I need, like, we bump up the difficulty, we're trying to get certain things, we're trying to push the envelope, and I have to play at like a higher tuned level. I can't like take risks or do dumb stuff because it will piss people off. But yeah, so it is sort of like a second, yeah, it is like sort of like a second, kind of like it's a second mode in the game for me. Overwatch and games like that, I don't really, since they're online and you're always playing with somebody, you're never playing against a computer really. They are they're just, I don't know, the type of gameplay too, the for FPS sort of, I don't know, it's something about it. I do want to try more Rivals though, so maybe one day I will.
Yeah. When you do, let me know. I'll jump in with you. We can
Okay.
we can critique it together. That's fine. That's probably the only time I'll probably jump into it. Once again, it's just like when it comes to I can totally see Helldivers being like a podcast game, for sure. The only weird like Helldivers is the only game in a long while that doesn't have a story progression, and it's just like that I don't mind playing with certain groups of friends because it's just there's something about it that feeds into that loop of playing. While, for example, looter shooters or something like that, right? Where you can like, well, at least you're getting better gear. This one, you're not really getting better gear. Yes, you get kind of some stuff when you get to certain level caps. You unlock new stuff, but after a certain point, you're like, well, now you're not getting anything anymore. So what's the kind of point?
Oh yeah, I mean, like
But
after
it's
like
still
like after I hit level 25 or whatever and have all of the things, then yeah, I probably won't really want to play that much. But since I do have, right now I do have things to get that I can just sort of grind out on my own, then it. And I haven't. I mean, this is news from like 2 or 3 weeks ago because I haven't played Helldivers but by myself in a little while. I don't know. I don't feel like I didn't feel like I should stop or anything, but just other things sort of came up, and I was like, yeah, I'll play this instead. But yeah, there's just stuff to do to me, but yeah, you're right. Like looter shooters, I think the other thing about looter shooters and online games like that is I freaking hate the slot machine aspect of it. Like, just it something about them being literal gambling machines irks me. And I don't know. I'd rather I want to see what I'm going for, and I want it to be like reasonably achievable within a certain amount of time. And I don't want to open up random boxes and be like, oh, I got this random thing that I don't really want. I just want to go.
No, the RNG gods hate me. So,
Yes,
which is kind of
as
one
well
of the
they
reasons.
should.
Yeah, they do. Rightfully so. But I have another buddy who we play Nike on the mobile game together, and he's like, "Yeah, the new event, first pull, they hit the special SSR," and I'm like, "Great!" I literally spent like by the time that event ends, I'm 150 pulls in. Never spent a dime, mind you, so at least that's good. But I still haven't pulled the thing. Like I'm like, I hate you. I hate you so much.
You should save your good pulls until you see him again, and then you go, "Hey, can you just hold this?" And then you just press that button, and then maybe you'll be able to leech some of their RNG favors from them, and you'll actually get something good.
So I've used my kids for that. I'm like, here, swipe this. And then also my dog came up to me wondering what was going on, so I bopped it and did a nose bop, and I'm like, swipe. I'm like, nope, okay, you're no good, you know better than me. Okay. So yeah. Well, anyways, uh, Marvel Rivals, a game that's seemingly really popular, unfortunately not doing so hot as far as keeping their staff. Uh, with that kind of resume under their belt, though, we hope that they find better work elsewhere. So, all right, what's the next bit of news you got for us?
Next thing, I'm just ripping this straight from Video Games Chronicle. Hades 2 developer says it won't recast anyone after striking voice actor says they may be replaced. So I kind of read through the article a good bit, and it's like this particular striking voice actress, she posted on Blue Sky that she was like if I'm not in the next game, it won't be because I quit or couldn't do it. It will be because the company didn't want to use an interim contract. And then I think I stopped reading about there. But basically, from what I understand, interim contract, it sounds like is like a contract to bridge um, the strike so that they can use SAG after actors without kind of crossing the picket line, in mass. So I was like, that's what it sounded like to me. I could very well be wrong, but anyway. So Hades 2 developer, was it Giant Head or anyway? I forget who develops that. Somebody popular. Anyway, so they basically said they were like, we aren't going to
Are you talking
recast
about Super Giant? I'm sorry.
Super
You're
Giant.
talking about Super Giant.
Yeah, Super
Yes.
Giant. Yeah, so they said that they won't recast anyone. That's just what they're saying right now. It remains to be seen. So it kind of like we sort of heard this song and dance before, but it sort of makes me kind of wonder about AI. Because that's what all this is about. Is the video game companies, developers, and movie companies especially don't want to sign a bunch of stuff about how they are not going to use AI and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, I mean, I kind of, I'm just like, what is, like that doesn't really seem, it seems sort of like just sort of like a standoff. And because I mean, if I were the companies, I wouldn't be like, well, AI is the future. We're all gonna be going that way pretty much no matter what. But if I was an actor, I would also be like, yeah, I'm not, I don't want to lose my job, to that. Um, so it just is another line in the sand. Seems like for a lot of these developers and actors, and I'm just wondering when it's going to come to a head.
Yeah, it's one of those things that AI voice acting and voices still suck. They've
Mm.
gotten better, but they're nowhere near right yet.
But I mean,
Especially when they can't. Uh, I've come across YouTube videos where they kind of abbreviate manga, to a certain extent, and they will they will often get words wrong. They will get like they'll spout gender incorrectly after saying that this person is a he. Then next panel will say she, and it's just like eh, yes, the algorithm and everything, and the learning format will get stronger, but at the same time, also the inflections and is still not there. Plus, you got to have what is it learning off of? Um, so if you're doing it legally, then you have to have a lot of good voice samples. But unfortunately, like uh, recently there's been an AI kerfuffle about the fact that Meta was using or allegedly using torrented books and stuff like that, and using different torrent sites for
oh,
uh, illegally obtaining their material. I didn't look too much into it. I was just like, yeah, that sounds about right. Just go ahead and steal all the information to try to make it's one of those things that if they can get away with it, their ends will justify their means because the proof, as well, it's already done. Like what are you going to do now? Yeah, we'll pay the fine and be done with it. Um, yeah, it's kind of it's a slippery slope for sure, and uh, I've mentioned it before. I guess I can jump into it now, but like I had watched I mentioned season one of Oi Tombo, which is an anime that very much feels it's like it's a AI voice acted. It's like Prime had brought it out. Um, I don't know the company originally behind it, but the English in it is like I love it because it's so bad. It reminds me of like
the oldies.
anime in like the mid '90s. It is just their cadence in their voice. It's very much
We,
let's take the subtitle and read that verbatim and try to match the lips.
uh,
So it's not really natural, and a lot of times you'll have weird dead pauses between their own sentences.
uh,
And once again, I can't prove like I actually couldn't prove if it was. I didn't look too much into it either, but like I couldn't prove it was AI, but it really felt like it was AI, uh, or they
yeah.
just took some warehouse workers from like the Prime warehouse and went like, "You guys, we need someone to fill in, so come on in and read the subtitles. Just do it," because there's a lot of them was just like devoid of emotion. Some people
Mm.
were okay, but which makes you like, okay, maybe there is a voice behind this, but at the same time, I don't believe I could do voice acting work. But when I'm watching this, I'm like, I could totally do this. I
Mm.
can at least do this.
Could at
I can't
least
do it well. I can't do it well, but I can do this.
I can do this. Yeah, I could at least do this good. Yeah, I mean, it's like what I was going to say earlier is, if you went and showed somebody in 2015, so 10 years ago, if you showed somebody AI videos, now short ones even, and say this is completely computer generated by AI. That means we told it something and then it made all of it. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would be like flabbergasted. I'd be like, this is crazy. Like you're telling me somebody didn't go in and model. I mean, you'd have to explain it to me. Like it was this, and a computer just did it all. With from soup to nuts. Um, I would be pretty blown away. So I'm just kind of looking. So yeah, it's really stilted right now, and I mean, I kind of think about it like you're using a shotgun to hit a target that's like 20 or 30 feet away. So, yeah, some of the bits are going to hit, but really you're going to have to use you're using kind of luck to be able to get any bit on the target at all. So instead of one sniper blast, sniper shot, you're having to do like 1,000, shotgun blasts to go. Okay, after 1,000, we have like, you know, 5 or 6 that work really well, and then a couple that are just sort of okay, and then the rest are just complete garbage. Um, but in 10 years, like in 10 more years, it's going to be, I want this in this style like this, and the thing is probably going to make it even better than like you thought to make it, because it's going to go, okay, so all this needs to be like this, and your prompt has problems with this because you don't understand art, but I'm the AI and I do understand blah 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 blah. Um, it's just going to be crazy. So yeah. Anyway, that's just kind of the nightmare future that I envision whenever I try to go to sleep at night. Um, I don't know where I was going with that. I just every time these come up, I just kind
Okay.
of.
But about voice acting,
But I
um,
mean, but voice acting is the same way. Like, yeah, it's stilted, and yeah, it's like, yeah, it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like Morgan Freeman if he like just woke up from a nap and was severely depressed, just flat toned or whatever. But it won't be very long before it's like, well, now we have literally 99% of what Morgan Freeman did throughout his whole career at every age, in every categorized into every emotion and every situation. So they could, I mean, the ones of like the ones that you hear, like mostly like of Joe Rogan, um, they sound weird, but you have to listen to them. You have to listen to them for like 5 or so seconds before you go, okay, this is not real. In a while, it will be indistinguishable, and then after that, it'll be like, well, what about this actress and this actress mixed together to make an even better actress voice acting or actor or whatever? And then it's like, well, it's just a can of worms that is going to be very tricky to unwind.
oh, for sure, it's the deep fake future we live in now. Essentially, is what's going to get worse. And
Oh yeah.
uh, all right, well, uh, at least when it comes to Supergiant, I support their stance of staying behind, backing their voice actors and not just cutting them and running. They're a studio that I still have a lot of respect for, and they're one of the few studios that I'll blindly support because they're willing to do new things quite often. This is like the first actual mainstream sequel they've made of a game with Hades 2. But they've done so many unique things. It may not all have caught fire, like been the greatest new game, but hey, it's at least they've done another unique thing. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love them as a studio, and I believe them when they say they won't back it, unless if it's one of those things that like this thing drags on for like theoretical years, and I'm like,
Mm,
well, they have to release something or else they literally can't keep the doors open because they need the money to come in.
yeah.
But that's one of the only few times the early access model on Steam really does help because that gets the money to continually come in the door, and a lot of people know that the builds they come out with are really solid, and they do decent feedback, decent letting people know updates and stuff like that. So yeah, it's hopefully this thing will be settled amicably, and they'll be Supergiant will be able to continue making their game, but also the voice actors be able to keep their rights as humans.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the old joke of like the machines and or whatever like, taking our jobs, but yeah, it is the dystopian current situation we're in. So we
Yeah.
most definitely it needs to be addressed. And yeah, I guess we'll just leave it at that.
Hmm.
So, what else you got for us, Nick?
Well, I will say before moving on that I'm in agreement with you that I do respect Supergiant for sticking in solidarity with the actors and stuff like that. That's definitely very cool. But going on, last two little things that probably don't really have much to discuss about them, but Elden Ring. This was like on Valentine's Day, so like right after we recorded. Elden Ring Night Rain had some pretty serious issues with people being able to log in to do the playtest, and so Kotaku was reporting on that a little bit. Saying, I mean, I think it was only like a 3 hour playtest, and they had like people that like a lot of people couldn't get in or whatever. So anyway, that happened, and I'm sure that kind of ruined a lot of people's hopes to be able to play that. But it is what it is. The other thing is that it's kind of something maybe more near and dear to our hearts is Sam Lake and Lucas Pope are to be honored at this year's GDC Awards. I think Sam Lake is getting a Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that. Sam Lake, obviously, the director and writer for Alan Wake, Alan Wake 2, and a bunch of other games from Remedy. And Lucas Pope, I forget, he's done a bunch of writing on really popular PlayStation games, and I can't think of it right
Um,
now. But
Return of the Oberdin fame,
oh, that was it. Yeah,
Papers,
Papers,
Please,
Please. Yeah.
and a few others that come to mind, but I'm drawing a blank right now. But yeah, it's very, very creative individual who thinks outside the box, essentially. And so if you want a unique gaming experience, totally look up Lucas Pope's works. A lot of them are all available. Well, most of them are available on Steam. I think he came out with a unique game for that handheld with the crank, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it right now.
Weird.
But it was, yeah, it's like just really wild and creative person. So I mean, most definitely give Lucas Pope's stuff a shot. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've always wanted to play Return of the Oberdin. But whenever it came out, it was really like weird and I think there's like a big sort of like the story goes deeper, than it seems at face value. So I've always wanted to play that, but haven't had a chance as of yet. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention those guys are going to be honored.
Playdate. That's the weird handheld with the crank. It was like a Kickstarter thing or something like that. But it's he came out with Mars After Midnight, and it's
Mm.
legitimately just a this solely exclusive handheld. It uses the crank gimmick, as it were, like function properly. And apparently I didn't realize, but um yeah, it's just like recently came out with another game well, the Mars After Midnight came out in 2024, and apparently 2024 came out with um um Moda's Mansion, or Moda Mansion. So yeah, it's good. It's like still making games, but that's a browser based, apparently, only.
Mm.
So like most definitely give the stuff a shot. Papers, Please was a lot of fun too. Um, how to it's almost a self study about uh,
Eastern
how
Bloc.
you judge people.
Oh, I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah, it's I only played Papers, Please like for like 20 minutes one time because I don't know the loop. I played like the loop like once and it like just crap kicked me and I was like okay, and I tried the next thing, but I got what it was going for. It's like, okay, I see what the point of this game is. It's trying to say like you're in an impossible situation, and anyway, but yeah, so anyway, those guys are being honored, and I wanted to mention that.
All right. Oh, that's awesome. GDC is game developer conference, and so it's kind of like the better place to be honored, in my opinion. Video Game Awards is probably more publicly viewed, but GDC seems to be that, and like Dice Awards seem to be more uh, for the internals, like
Yeah, it's
people in
more
the loop.
like
So
we like you're not fooling anybody in this. Everybody here knows the score. Everybody in here knows all the tricks. So if you're being honored at GDC or Dice or whatever, it's like that you really are something special in that industry.
All right. Well, on that note, speaking about the video game awards and fooling people, I'm going to go into what I've been playing. So, uh, I've been playing recently Metaphor Refantazio, which was Video Game Awards, RPG of the Year. I think it lost what should have been a shoe in, which was the Metaphor should have won the video game or the soundtrack for last year, but
Mm.
instead they gave it to Final Fantasy, uh, which I think was rubbish, especially after playing this game for about 15 hours so far.
Oh
So
wow.
I'm still early days into this game.
You only have
The
70
game is like
hours to
a
go, Joe.
yeah, it's pretty fun. So for those who don't know, Metaphor Refantasio is an Atlas developed game, very much Persona or Shin Megami, and it's a like style game, and it is strictly in a new fictional world where it's like high fantasy where everyone is a different race, as it were. There's lots of different races. This is a old school JRPG style where it's a mixture between um, quick action and turn based. Uh, you have an overworld, as it were, where you get to run around the map. You see your enemies, and if you played a persona, like one of the more recent personas, then you will. This will sound familiar, where the monster will be in front of you, and if you can quickly attack it prior. But instead of just going into like other games where you've attacked it, now you get the advantage to you, and then go turn based. Once you get to a certain level, you can instant kill them. So therefore, completely skipping the turn-based nature of it, you just kill them in the overworld, as it were, or the map,
That's a really
and
good
then you just
idea.
gain the experience. It
It's
is. It
it's
speeds it
like
up so much.
we're not going to waste your time. Like everyone knows that you're going to just win this battle, so just insta kill, and then it's like okay, still get what I wanted out of it, but I'm not breaking my fun time.
Yes, and then if it's a enemy that's either equal to you or they are above your level, they'll indicate that via color system. So if they're above you, they're red. I think they're yellow, they're equal to you, and if they're below you, they're blue. So the blue ones you can insta kill. The red ones, what you do is you hit them enough, and then kind of break their guard, as it were. They'll kind of fall down. You can then initiate the turn-based nature of it. When that happens, they are instantly dazed at the start of the map, giving you a couple extra turns to deal more damage.
Nice.
And then yeah, so it has that. In this, instead of having personas, you end up having archetypes, but it's and you can change those on the fly. So unlike a persona game where you're just stuck with whatever your character is issued,
Mm,
each character has who comes to your party or new friendships or bonds you get. They will introduce a new archetype, and you can then freely switch out. So if you don't want to be a warrior but you want to be a healer, you can switch that person out to be healer. You can switch them out to be a mage. They have a bunch, a knight, merchant. Still unlocking a bunch. I think I'm only like halfway through the different types you can get, and then you have evolutionary versions of those. You'll have like an elite, and I think some of them have two or up to three evolutions. So, yeah, it goes in real deep. I'm still just scratching the surface, as it were. I've essentially I feel comfortable. I'm past the tutorial area where the tutorial I think is like 10 hours long, in my opinion. It's because you're still constantly learning new things. I mean, uh, the story is pretty basic. You're essentially the king has been killed, and you're coming in from outside the town. You are friends with the previous prince who had gone into hiding after a failed assassination attempt, and he is sick. So you're trying to reach your resistance member that's on the inside in the military, and you're trying to inform them that the prince is getting worse. And plus, with the recent assassination of the king, there's now going to be a power struggle because the prince is unknown whereabouts, but the prince is kind of in a coma, as it were. So the person who did the assassination, uh, it's kind of like it's an open secret, but that they are now trying to usurp the throne, and that's kind of the gist of it in a nutshell. As your character progresses, I think canonically they don't give them a name. You're supposed to pick a name for it, but I think canonically their name is Will. So Will's character is uh, has a fairy companion who is non-combat oriented but will aid from time to time. But yeah, you meet your party members and in JRPG fashion, just kind of roll through the land. Like the old Persona games, it gives you a calendar, day-night cycle. So during the day, you can do certain activities that will take up time, and then if you do something small, you'll then have the evening, the nighttime to do some more things, and you have your stats to build up. In this case, so you have like courage, wisdom, um, and just think of those kind of things to help stat boost
Is
that will
i-
open up gates.
is that sort of a play on? I mean, it's different, obviously, but is that sort of a play on like Persona 4, where you have like your battling time, but then you also have like your relationship building time? Is that sort of
Yes.
same but different?
Yeah. So I think in this one they call it like uh, virtues, like royal virtues or something like that.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, so Persona, you didn't get to play 5, correct?
No, I
Persona
didn't.
5. Okay, so I know you did put quite a bit of time in Persona 4. So in the terms of Persona 4, um, like you couldn't do certain dialogues, or you couldn't go to certain areas without getting, like, you can go to the shrine at night if your courage wasn't high enough. Um, well, in this, like, you can't necessarily talk to certain people to do certain quest lines until your wisdom is high enough. So you have to spend time in the city to build those stats with certain events. And you build, just like the Persona 4, you build your bonds with your friends, your allies, which then help unlock further evolutions of your persona or your archetype in this case. So they can, for example, the I believe the knight can eventually become a samurai. The warrior, I forget what they just evolved into, but it's like they'll have different step ups from what they do. So you'll have to, in order to evolve your archetype, you have to have a high enough level bond with that person and also level up your archetype appropriately. So early on, I found a good spot to grind, and I got my base archetypes up to level 20, but then it capped. It's just like, okay, at level 20 you're max. Not And then I have to wait until I further enhance my bond with that person, and then once it gets to a certain level, like level 3, I'll be able to then evolve my archetype into the next step. And you don't get to actually really see, like, there's it goes really in depth, and so far I'm really enjoying my time with it. The only real thing I have against it as a knock is, coincidentally, voice acting. So the
Hmm.
voice acting is actually pretty good. Uh, there's just not enough of it.
Oh.
And also it's just a little weird at times because due to the art style, uh, your your characters may be very emotional, but it's not reflected in their portraits. So they'll be yelling or screaming, and it's not you don't see a yelling or screaming face. So it's just kind of a little bit of a weird juxtaposition of them just kind of like talking a little bit normal, maybe looking a little more like intense, but they're like, your face does not match the voice that you're doing. And I think that's just the art in general. That's just the game. I don't blame it on the voice actors because I'm pretty sure I have only been playing it in English. So I want to get that out of the way. But I'm pretty sure the English is like pairing probably pretty well, because just the scene in whatever happens, like, oh yeah, you're about to fight a major person, and these characters are getting amped up. They're kind of yelling or screaming at that enemy, like, that makes sense. That suits the mood. Unfortunately, the portrait does not suit the scene.
Yeah,
They
again
seem
that
way too
big,
chill.
again that big, even though, it is from a Japanese company, would probably have a pretty serious localization, especially in English. So it would make sense that they would try every possible way to make that seamless, like more seamless. So it would be something that I would think would happen occasionally, like really like you know, 5 or 6 times throughout the whole game, maybe, where you're just like, oh, that just, oh, I can tell with localization just couldn't handle that. So if it's happening kind of regularly, I would wonder at the overall, like the localization might be doing what their job, and it's just the original
Yeah.
developer just didn't really have time to do everything the way it should have been done.
And so it's one of the things that visually the game is up to snuff. Like, yes, this it suits the current generation of gaming, or maybe PS4 esque, but at the same time, the amount of voice acting reminds me of more of a PS3 era. Which is your cutscenes, your main actual cutscenes are voice acted. And like I said, they're pretty well done, especially when it's only when they're in game, kind of as it were, that uh it doesn't match up so well, especially with like the side portraits when you see the text on the screen. But then the moment you're out of the main cutscene, so the big thing happens, they're running to the next location, and then you enter the next loading screen. Now, what they'll do is the main characters, they'll just cut their voice acting. And what they'll do is they'll have a one line like piece of dialogue, not even one line, like one word dialogue to give you the emotion behind the sentence or like what you're about to read. Um,
And then
it's
you
like,
read what the, and it's like, oh, and
yeah,
then it's
and
like
it's very
expressing,
jarring because
yeah,
you're sitting there having it, like everything is in a good flow. You're like, okay, I'm enjoying this experience, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know, and then it's a whole dialogue like, now we have to do this, blah blah blah. We have to go there, and then it's
now
like,
I'm
but
reading,
then and the
yeah,
next person is just like, but we have to, and then it's like, this is what we should be doing, and like, so you're reading a bunch more than you, I think, rightfully should. I'm like, I don't expect a game this big to have all like 100% voice acted, but it feels very much to the like when you see games being remastered nowadays, um, Left 4 Dead, or not Left 4 Dead, I'm sorry, Dead Rising
mm,
is the most recent example for me, where the old game was very much not completely voice acted. Most of it was text, and then they redid it, and all the side quests and all the small dialogue, everyone's voice acted. I'm like, that's great.
yeah,
Um, I feel like that should almost be the standard, but especially in this game where you have a lot of people you meet on the streets, and you're literally eavesdropping on conversations just to get the vibe of the citizens and normal people because there's a whole political stuff, and you're like, okay, fine, that's a lot. Don't voice a bunch of randos because you can only have so many voices, and you're just gonna be, you're gonna recycle the same 10 voice actors to do like a million different side people. I understand that, but at least have anything with your main like crew, the hero characters, their faces, have them, be voice acted. If you see the main character's face on the screen, you should probably have that voice acted, especially when you're in the middle of a dungeon or middle of a bunch of sequences where they're jumping in and out of actually being voice acted, and
mm,
then next thing you know, they're speaking and it's not being voice acted, and it's just like, it's the other thing is it's like when you're kind of like yourself, you're kind of like stepping back from it, and you're just like putting the controller down. You can have the text auto, advance because it's an old RPG style. So you just hit the triangle, and you're letting the audio, when their voice stops, they'll automatically progress to the next scene. You're like, great. And then all of a sudden they don't do it. And then you're not really 100% paying attention. You're like, oh wait, and then it automatically skips to, like, wait, I didn't get to fully read that because I was expecting to listen to it. uh
yeah.
Luckily, they do have a log system, so you can
Ugh.
look at the chat log and
But you don't want
view
to be
what they
doing
said.
that. I mean, you don't want to be going back to that every other minute. You want that. It's like, wait, what did they say? What, I forgot what they were saying, and then you go back to it. That's what that is really
Yeah.
for.
So that is like my biggest pet peeve of this game. And I'm like, yes, I guess it's so much more glaring because the rest of the game I'm having a great time with, and it's a lot of fun. I think the adventure, the story is kind of bombastic in a great JRPG way. The music's been pretty awesome all the way through. It reminds me, Uh, I've kind of forgot how much I like JRPG music in a lot of ways for like just the background music and stuff. It has that orchestral sound in a lot of it. It's actually one of the best PS5 home screen. Uh, like if you let your icon rest on different games on the PS5,
Mm,
it'll autoplay kind of like a trailer theme.
mm,
And this one's like pretty awesome. It's very orchestral, very like vocal, and just it's
mm.
like, wow, that's pretty epic, and gets you kind of amped for it. And it's just like, opposed to other games where it might be like a more jarring or loud noise. I'm like, no, this is good. I can leave it on here for a while.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I mean, I
it
was
has
gonna.
that near automata vibe of like
Okay.
the airiness of the some of the orchestral singing. So
That's kind of cool. Like you were talking about the, I wanted to say about the voice acting stuff. Yeah, like the main storyline, like the critical path of the game, like to get to see credits, like you have to go down this path. Like that, at the very least, should be, if you're gonna voice act stuff, that should be fully voice acted, so that one, when you know, or when you go to that, you you are being like kind of treated to like, okay, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this game and everybody knows we can't make a perfect game, with every single thing that's this big and stuff, but this is like the this is like the gold standard of this game. This is, if we only could make one thing, this would be it. This one 10-hour strip that is uh, throughout the game, it would be this. So at least there's some pomp and circumstance on that. And then, like, side characters, or side stories and little, like, villager characters and stuff that you go. That is where you have like the, oh, and then you read their dialogue. But at all
exactly.
times, you want to be communicating to the player what they are expected to be doing and how they're expected to be behaving, what they can expect. It's like, I mean, like I'm playing a game right now where they have and it's a very very good game, but where they have like the main storyline is tagged in like gold symbols, and then like the not main storyline is like tagged in like silver, and then the lower than that is like blue, and then there's a bunch of other random stuff. But it's like, okay, when you go to do this silver medaled mission, you know that you are in like a high tier story related thing. Maybe not top tier, but it's like it's going to be like it's going to go a certain way, and you go, okay, so I kind of get what I'm into. So that kind of stuff is it's just weird. It's weird because I would think that Atlas, for a big game like that, that they would have kind of been more on top of it. But I mean, I'd have to play it for myself finally. And hopefully I will be able to one day. But I'd have to play it for myself to really be able to judge for sure. But it does sound kind of weird to me.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's only more glaring because the game is so good as well. I mean, if it had other faults and stuff like that, maybe I would be more focused on that. And it does make it feel more like the Persona 4 Golden or something like that. It so it makes it feel a couple generations old because it's not fully voice acted. I honestly don't remember how the voice acting as far as the entire game goes for Persona 5. I remember picking it up, not liking it as much as like Persona 3 or 4. And then eventually, so I just kind of shelved it for a while. And then they announced Persona 5 Royal. And then that irked me to the point where I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you're announcing it like within, I think, like a year, just after a year of like the first game releasing. And it's in the same generation. So I was very upset. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to play this game then.
Yeah.
Um,
They
I
just
still have
jerked you
my
around too
Persona
much.
5 copy behind me, steel bookcase, like, and it's not since I you have to buy Royal to get all the integrated extras. So that's I'm not 100% sure if they did the same thing, but I feel like it would have been at least to this level. If they did more, then I think it's unexcusable that an earlier game would be more fully voiced than this. But I feel that it's one of those, maybe it's a JRPG sensibility thing because I mean I haven't played a lot of JRPGs in the recent memory. I mean the only other RPG that I really played was Final Fantasy 16, and they did the quest icons that you were talking about. They had something similar with quest icons, and even with the side stories. I remember if there was a side story that provided like more crucial a story element, they would at least highlight the side mission to be like, this is maybe a more important side mission that you might want to do, so you at least knew you can do that to get some good reward or something from it. So yeah, it's anyways, Metaphor, Refantazio. This game is I highly recommend it if you're into a JRPG. The only thing that I wouldn't, maybe you want to stay clear from is because of the high um, level of, the amount of time commitment you're going to have to put into it. Because
That's what keeps me away.
once again, like it was like I ended up completing a small mini dungeon, just a mini quest, and then you come back to the town, and then you end up facing quite a bit of story, and then you go into a bigger dungeon. And I said, it's not until it's that particular dungeon is complete that I feel like, okay, that is comfortably that's the end of tutorial mode right there. You're like,
Mm,
it's um, once you're done with the first big dungeon, and this takes place very much in that Persona way where you have a calendar system, so a lot of your missions are um, time sensitive. Some aren't. Some are just like you can just do this whenever, but others are like side quests and stuff. They'll be like you have 10 days to complete this. Um, so it's a ample enough time. I think a way to help cut the some of that stress is also I'm not I have because time is my time is important to me. So I just found a guide, a quick spoiler-free guide of kind of like how to optimize your daily checklist. So I just kind of follow through what they say because when I was younger and Persona 4 came out, I was just like, okay, I played the game freely as I saw fit through the first time. Then, as when I played New Game Plus, I had known the course of most of the events. I had written a lot of stuff down, and then I was like, then I went through the hassle of mapping out the optimum day, and I'm like, you know what? People have already done that. So I'm going to go ahead and find someone else's optimum use of my time, and that way I just follow through, and I still get to enjoy all the story beats, but I don't have to literally figure out like, oh, I messed something up because I didn't realize that a future date would be impaired by like some sort of story element, random pop up, or they are not this person who I thought might be available on a certain day isn't because of whatever circumstance. So I would just find a guide and just spoiler free guide and roll through that just to optimize your time there. But as far as the actual gameplay itself, it feels solid. Um, like I said, grinding isn't as bad as as other games because of you can do that kind of overworld combat where you're on the map and you don't necessarily have to go into the actual like turn-based mode. You can just slash and then run away, and like certain enemies will the map will respawn some fodder often enough, so you can just run back and forth, and that's how I've built quite a bit of currency as well. Um, yeah, I mean, there is a lot to this game. It is a little daunting, but 15 hours in, I'm really enjoying my time, and I do want to see more of it to the end. I can't guarantee I'll complete it, but if I'll probably hopefully touch back within a week or two and have more to say about it at that time. This game is still like you're looking at a Metacritic of like 94,
yeah.
and the user rating of like 2,000 people, just under 2,000 people, is like 8.7. I mean, it's highly rated for a reason.
Mm,
Um, so I would say, for me personally, at this time, because I'm still early into the grand scheme of the story, um, I would say it's probably an 8,
okay.
maybe a 7.5, only because I'm annoyed by the voice acting or the lack thereof. Like
Yeah.
that I think is really like it hits me harder because I just want to enjoy the experience more, and it's just that jarringness of like, oh wait, now I gotta read. And yes, mind you, I am a slow reader. Like I remember what I read, but I just like
Well, that's not really the
so I'll
point. I mean,
remember.
that's not really the problem. That's
Yeah,
not really the point. Is like, it's like, wait, am I reading or am I listening? Oh, I'm listening. Okay. Wait, I'm supposed to be reading now. Wait, that's what sucks. Is having like immersion is the thing that you want in any kind of entertainment media, and that breaks the immersion. So, and also like, how much more does it cost? I know it costs more and whatever, but how much more does it cost to completely voice act uh, a few more scenes or a critical path or whatever? It's probably, I know, it's like, well, it's easy to spend other people's money, but at the same time, there's like what are you really doing with that? But yeah, I mean, the game's great. There's probably a lot of good things with the story. That the music's great and the gameplay is great. You're just kind of nitpicking the thing that you have right
yeah.
now.
but that's the thing is it because it's so solid that is if that's the only problem I have really at this time, then it's just, and I generally judge things more harshly than most. So I would if you're remotely interested, just recommend giving it a shot. I mean, I'm checking mine out from the library,
Mhm.
and it's currently on sale on PlayStation. The collector's edition, which has like a bunch of just spare outfits, which for me it's like it's a fun thing, but it's like immersion breaking as well because like you can have all the Persona outfits or like another Shin Megami game, you can have the outfits. I'm like, I don't want my characters being dressed up as school children because this isn't that setting. This is not remotely that setting.
Yeah.
And it has, but the character designs like very much a Shin Megami, world-esque. The enemies are also weird and grotesque in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Which, it's like I said, I'm curious to unravel the story. This did win quite a few awards at the video game awards. It was best RPG. I believe it was I'm trying to remember. It was best RPG. It was art direction and like narrative. I think those three. Um, Now it should have won soundtrack, but I feel like, obviously it's politics involved, so they're like we got to give it to Final Fantasy because they haven't won anything.
Yeah.
I and it's such an iconic soundtrack, but I'm like it's an iconic soundtrack because it's old. It's
It's also
But
was
anyways,
already done in remake, so
yeah.
you already. It's like okay,
Yes,
whatever.
you made a bunch of new stuff that I'm sure is great, but, like, just I like to award new things for that, you
Yeah.
know? So that's kinda why I think the soundtrack was so for me, has been really good so far. But yes, alright, enough gushing about Metaphor Refantazio. Um, I hope to get more into it, and I hope to give you guys more, update as it continues, but that's pretty much what I've been playing, and probably what I might be playing in the long-term
You're
future, so
never
we'll
gonna
see.
not be playing that game if you finish it. It
Yeah.
means that you're. I mean, your kids are gonna graduate and probably retire before you're finished with that game.
Well, okay, so if the Persona 4 went gold and, then Persona 5 went royal, what would this game's next version, like the 1.5 version be? Because you went gold to royal to I don't know, I can't think of it, diamond? Something like that?
Gold, royal. It's got to be well. One's a mineral. Royal is like a rank. So I don't know, like S.
Go interstellar galactical? I don't know,
I mean, they'd probably just go to a letter, just S plus or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Uh, back to what we introed you as, Mr. Furry. What are the animal games you've been playing this
I've been
week?
playing some animal games, so I played a little game called two little games actually, but a little game called Untitled Goose Game. So it has no title. It's about a goose. This game came out several years ago. I always heard that it was short, and whenever it came out, it was like everybody was talking about it. It was great and stuff. Um, and I always wanted to play it, so I finally got a hold of it, and I definitely enjoyed this game quite a bit. I always knew I would because it's cute and the gameplay is good. It is pretty pure in the gameplay. They don't like it's like here's the situation. They don't waste. I mean, there's no. I mean, if you play the game or you've played the game, there's no really thing to put around it. But they don't waste any time doing whatever. So it is kind of a pure video game in that way. This game is, for those that maybe don't know, is you are a goose, and it is like a kind of a top down, looking at the goose, and you move the goose around, and you set out on a mission to find something. Not really sure what that is exactly at the beginning, even though you could know. But you're setting out, and as you get to the first area, and then each area after that, you are given a list of things, and you are supposed to procure those items or accomplish those things. Um, I'm sure there's probably a better game to compare this to, but to me, it was probably I got into probably that third area, and I was like, oh, this is Hitman. This is just Goose Hitman. And it's definitely very
Peace
different.
never an option.
Yeah, that is one of the things. Like, there's a part where there's a funny picture I saw um, of this game where where it's the goose, and you can pick stuff up in your beak, in your bill, and hold it. And the way that, and you can pick up like a butter knife, and it will pick up this butter knife and hold it in its bill. And I saw some meme years ago, and it had that picture, and it's like, yeah, it said peace was never an option. Yeah, you're just getting into mischief, and it's cute, it's fun, it's funny. It's it's just sort of perfectly clean kind of gameplay. There was only one point where I got stuck in that second area, and I was just like, I wandered around. It's a small area. I did everything I could, wandered around for like 10 minutes, and then I was like, okay, I just have to look this up. So I pulled it up on my phone, and I was like, oh, dang it, of course. So as soon as I saw half of the answer, I was like, ah, okay. And so I was able to get through that. And then there was one other point where either I think I was like almost gonna look something up, but ended up, oh, it was like two or three areas later where I was like, okay, I gotta see what I did wrong here, because I couldn't get it. Um, that ended up so I was in it, so I had to look up stuff like twice. Um, Probably could have figured it out if I banged my head against the wall a little bit more, but I didn't really feel like it. Even still, this game, is only like 3.5 hours long. I think that's what I clocked it as. So, very digestible. They give you a lot of gold trophies too. Every time you do one of the main things, there's like a gold trophy that pops out. Um, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really like Hitman, as people who listen to this podcast will know. And this definitely gave me Hitman Light vibes. It's a really fantastic game. I kind of wanted to go back to it and try to do a little bit more, but I kind of had my fill of it as well. Uh, and yeah, so anyway, Joe, you played this game a little bit, right? Or did you beat it?
Yeah, it was one of like 2 games that I ever bought on, Epic. In fact, it was like I think the first game I bought on Epic Games. Um, yeah, it's a great little game. It's very cute. In fact, having watching you replay it, I'm like, oh yeah. Well, now that I have kids, and my eldest is probably old enough to probably enjoy this because, I mean, it's one of those. It's a silly game that is just enjoyably lighthearted. You just walk around terrorizing people, honking at them. That's all you ever. That's the only action you have is to pick up and honk.
Yeah,
And it's one of those like beautifully simplistic. I don't know. It's a simple game. I mean, there's not much else to it. It's almost like a puzzle game because it's pretty much a puzzle game because you
mm,
have to figure out the mechanics and like, all right, well, my objective is this. How do I get the person to leave this area? What can I do to mess with them? There is no real high stakes or anything like that. There's no game over screen kind of deal. Or at least I don't remember there being. And yeah, it's just I played this like forever ago. So the fact that, like I said, you got back into it now, and it's just like, yeah, that's pretty great. In fact, just coincidentally, last week on Reddit, ended up seeing someone on one of the like someone made a statue figure of the goose, but they put and it looked pretty good. I don't know. I actually don't know if it was woodworked or if it was like 3D printed, but it had it standing, and they inputted a magnet within the bill. And so and then there was a strong magnet to hold their key ring. So when they came home, they just slapped their keys to it, and it looked like it was holding it. I'm like, that's pretty clever.
that's pretty
So
cool. That's fun.
yes, I mean, I highly recommend if anyone's out there looking for a short, simple game. I mean, this is available on pretty much like across the board on most platforms, if not all. I don't know if it's on Switch, but I would assume it'd be. There's no reason why it couldn't be. Uh,
Yeah, it's
but yeah,
probably
it's
not technically doing too much on the. It's not going to be that intensive, I don't think.
Yeah, and it is multiplayer. So that's the big thing too. It's like, so if you
I
have
don't know.
someone you wanna play with, y play 2 players. It makes it that much more entertaining. But yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you got to experience that. What else have you been playing, man?
Yeah, one other thing, won't talk about it too much because you've already talked about it a bit, but I played through Tiger Blade on PSVR 2, and that it was pretty fun. You had a good recommendation there. Music in this is pretty good. It's fun and fast, like a lot of Korean rap and stuff like that. So it's and with good beats and stuff. So it was really cool. It wasn't very long playing into this game where I was like, okay, now I understand why Joe's arms were tired because this game will make your arms tired, and it's but it's not very long and in the first place. And I would just play it in short sessions, but probably like 15 or 20 minutes at a time, because more than that, and yeah, your arms would get pretty dang tired. Um, the only thing that kind of soured this game for me a little bit is that I was kind of playing through it a little bit at a time, not a long game, but I was just doing it a few minutes at a time, and getting toward the end. Well, that's when I sprained my ankle, and so I was right at the end of this game, and I had to go from standing.
You sprained your ankle not related to the game,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
unrelated to
happen
the
to have
game.
yeah.
Unrelated to the game, though they do give an intense warning at the beginning of this game that you have to like I don't know I think I had to like literally look at the material. It was kind of janky. I didn't really understand what it it makes you read this very big warning, and then when it's sure that you've read it, it will do a pop up, and then you can go, and then you click that pop up, and then you can go past. So they were very serious about it, and the reason is because it is like a game that you really do need to swing. You need a good amount of space. You need to be very cognizant of your space because you do swing a lot of your arms around and stuff. But anyway, so I sprained my ankle, and I couldn't. I mean, like I could walk and stuff, but I couldn't. I wasn't going to stand to play this game because I wasn't going to do anything more than I absolutely had to. So I started sitting, and it was fine. It wasn't too bad. But then I got to the final boss, and the final boss, I mean, I didn't feel like it was really all that bad, but I did feel like it could be. I felt like it was annoying, and I felt like it could be better. So I just had to bang my head against the wall against this final boss like over and over again. It's like, okay, I know what to do here. I know what to do here, but because I can't stand up, this is um, frustrating. I was like, if I could stand up and move around just a little bit more, then this would be considerably. Um, I wouldn't necessarily. I would say easier, but easier because it is more conducive to what the game is asking me to do. But anyway, I fiddled with it for a long time and finally was able to get through it. And that's kind of just my my experience with the game. Overall, it was really good, fun, short, sweet game. And I kind of do want to go back and play that final boss battle again whenever my ankle's fully healthy, so that I can kind of see like how much I'm right or wrong about it. But otherwise, it is, if it's something that you have PSVR 2 and you're wondering about, you should definitely pick it up. I'll echo your words, Joe. You should definitely pick it up because it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's also I think it's also on MetaQuest, or the Meta Store, so, you should be able to play it on that as well, but no, it's like a 2-hour long game for the main story, and then they have some extra challenges, and, if you wanna collect things throughout the levels, there's those to do as well, but yeah, it is very much a good little game, great for little spurts, or if you just want, like, if one solid, like, 2-hour long play session, though, yeah, warning, you will be fatigued by the end, or at least with the PlayStation version. I really wish I could deactivate the the triggers to have because the haptic triggers provide resistance when you're pulling, and after like an hour into it, you're like, yeah, I'm really fatigued now, and so I can't shoot as fast as I would like to. Um, but yeah, for sure. That I'm glad you got to check it out, especially with your motion sickness. Like I was, surprised that you picked that one up. So I'm glad.
Well, yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons that I was trying to work. I was trying to work on it is because I'm trying to get into do at least a little bit of VR every single day, just so I can um, at least not let that motion sickness stuff come back, where I can be a bit more um, uh, re- resilient to it.
All right, cool. All right, well, let's get to what we've been watching. I'll just kind of related to a little bit of what we've been talking about earlier. I ended up finishing season two of Oi Tombo.
Hmm.
So the game that I just said how bad the voice acting was, they actually had season two like a while ago. I just stepped away from it for a bit. And just watched a bunch of other stuff. So I had some downtime, and I'm like, all right, let me give this a shot. Which is really jarring because how do I say this? Season two starts off, or at least on Prime or whatever. The first episode is all in Japanese. They didn't dub it, but it's all a flashback. It's like it's a recap of season one,
Oh,
and I'm like, did they? So I'm like, are they? Is this like delayed? So I kind of that was one of the reasons why I'm like, I just didn't bother. I was just like, okay, and I forgot about it for a while. But apparently, this episode two to almost the very end, except the second to last episode, they're all dubbed, no problem. And then the very last episode's another recap of season two, and I'm like, so they start off season two with a recap in the beginning of season one, and they ended on a recap. I'm like, that's just odd. Um, the story is just okay. Like I said, it was more of a fascination of like, I'm just really curious. I want to know the behind the scenes to this of how this got dubbed and why. I've I watched a bunch of I saw a bunch of comments and people are like way more happy about this than they should be. I'm like, this is just a mediocre golf like anime. Like mediocre is legit. And like it's not bad, but it's not great. It's just like, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's one of those I found a savant in the sticks and I'm gonna try to make them a pro kind of story. Um and yeah, like most other, it's like entertainment. You're either an underdog or you're a savant. Like
mm,
that's one of the like that's how you make a sports entertainment property. Doesn't matter if it's a movie or whatever. It's like, or you're too old. That's the other thing is like, if you're a Jedi or a Seabiscuit or something, you're too old, but like too old and it's like you're not the right archetype. But no, it's this one is just like I said, this guy finds a savant golfer in the middle of nowhere, he's a has been washed out golfer, and he's just like he ends up trying to coach and mentor this person. Uh, that's at least season one is to get them introduced to real golf, not just playing for funds and like just with the local people. And so season two is Tombo's adventure into becoming going into like the youth circuit, as it were, for like youth Japan golf. And yeah, it's ridiculous, but like in silly ways, but at the same time, it's more grounded than like a Kuro basket or something like that, or it's not as ridiculous. It's like far more real, as it were, that if you compare it to a Blue Lock or something like that, which is just absurdity, you
yeah. I
know.
mean, it's just a like space anime set to soccer, pretty much.
Yeah, so when it comes to this, like I said, I'm not gonna tell you not to watch it, but at the same time, I'm like, there is no reason to watch it. Uh, I was just more. It's just like it was just more of a morbid curiosity that I went through this, and in the end, I'm like, I wasn't angry. It's not like I wasted my time. I could have probably used it better reading a book or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's it. I'm just not much else to say. It's the voice acting is just kind of wild. I mean, you don't need to watch as much as I did, but at this point, I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go roll with this. It's a good thing to watch during lunch, and uh, man, I hope they don't make a season three with this type of voice acting.
Oh,
Whatever Prime did or Amazon has done with like this, I hope they don't do that again because it is just so stilted, and it's one of those things that when it comes to if I have a choice between, like you should always choose real voice acting. So like, go with SAG or go with at least people who are YouTube passionate, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
at least somebody that is a amateur, but near professional. Maybe.
yeah. So, all right. That's it. That's the only real like thing that I've watched to completion. I mean, this season's gone pretty far. A lot of the good stuff is still good. The mediocre stuff is still mediocre. So it's just like I don't really have much else to say across the board for that.
Hmm.
But what have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching quite a few different little animes, and can't. I mean, so I have on the list here Apothecary Diaries in a minute, but we can skip that if you want, because we are getting kind of long, and that's something else I want to talk about. And I'm only in through like episode 10 of it, so maybe I'll just wait. But I've been watching that, and I've been watching Elite Classroom, season 3. And I don't know if I mean, I'm not through with that yet, but when I am through with it, then probably talk about that. But so one thing I did watch, and I stayed up late one night watching it on a work night or weeknight, was a little movie called The Menu, live action, obviously. So this movie came out like 2023 or something. Um, Anna Taylor Joy,
2022.
2022. Okay.
Uh,
Anna Taylor Joy is the lead actress in it. I remember people talking about it, and being like, this movie's weird, And so I was like, weird and strange, and I was like, weird. So I was kind of wanted to watch it, but it wasn't on anything that I had, and I didn't feel like going out of my way to watch it. So it finally came on Netflix, and I was like, okay. Started watching it, and then kind of got sucked in. I was like, dang. And so I was like, needed to go to bed, but I was like, okay, I'll keep watching this. Um, it's, it's a movie. First of all, have you seen this?
no, I've watched a video essay about it.
Okay, so you probably
Someone
got
else
it
about it. So
spoiled the
I
hype.
so, I, so
So
yeah. I mean,
I'll try to warn our listeners whenever I get into spoilers. I don't know how much I'm
um,
actually going to get into it.
the main chef is uh
Ralph Fiennes.
Voldemort.
Fiennes.
Yes, that's it. Yes, totally.
Is it Ralph or there's brothers? Um, and it's
It's Ralph.
Ralph Fiennes. Okay.
It's Ralph.
Yeah, and he is fantastic in this. So yeah, he's kind of the so it's an ensemble cast in some ways. There's a bunch of cameos. John Leguizamo is in it, as well as a bunch of other people that you go, oh, I know that person. Oh, so that was kind of fun to see. But it's a movie about um, a so a bunch of people who meet at a dock and get on a boat, and they go out to an island. So they're kind of in a secluded spot, and they're going to a very prestigious restaurant wherein they have. I mean, the cost of like the meal is like $1,200 per person, and so they drop that and on you, and Anna Taylor Joy is the sort of the proxy for you, the audience member, because she doesn't really know about this whole world, and so she is like, and so she's like, what? And so you can be like, what? But it's fine. So it is like a ultra posh exclusive restaurant that does everything for you, and everything is like an extract is like a reduction of an extraction of the essence of some snail that you've never heard of, but it's supposed to be like really really good or whatever. So so they go to this restaurant, and then things, after they get to the island, and then things they slowly get a little bit weirder and a little bit weirder and a little bit weirder, and then like the band-aid comes off, and it's like, oh, what, there's like a really big moment, and that's after this particular moment, is when I was like, okay, I gotta stay up and watch the rest of this. So yeah, that's probably the end of where I can talk before it gets into like spoilers. So give you that little warning there. So the moment that that it goes kind of over the off the deep end is like Ralph Fiennes' character, who's the chef. He pulls his sous chef, or I guess second in command, um, out onto the main floor, and he's talking about him, blank, saying good things about him, and then he like kind of building him up, and then he basically says like he wants to, like he's very good, blah blah, but he's not great. He wants to be me, but he'll never be me. And then he starts to berate him, and the guy just kind of standing there like a soldier, like looking straight ahead, blah 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 blah, and so he starts to kind of tear up a little bit, and and Ralph Fiennes is like does this make you want to kill yourself or something like that? And then the guy says yes sir, and then Ralph Fiennes is like, well then do it. And then and the audience, the people at the restaurant are just like, what is going on? What kind of weird theater is this going on? But they're not really freaked out. They just think it's part of some sort of show. And then the guy goes, yeah, chef. And then he like pulls out a gun and like puts it in his mouth and like shoots himself in the head and falls on the floor where they have laid this, they laid this plastic out already. And you're like, oh, that's what the plastic was for. And I was like, I should have known. I should have known they were putting plastic on the floor. That's what, because there's
Spoiler warning, because Nick never suggested it beforehand. Okay.
I said spoilers. I said that that's about as much as I can talk about.
You said you'll say it when it comes up, but yeah.
No, oh well, no,
No.
that whole thing,
Okay.
that was definitely a big spoiler. So yeah, so like he shoots himself in the head, and goes down, and that's when it's like, oh no, this is something horrible. And from there, you kind of learn more and more, and they're like, is it, that's got to be fake? It's got to be some kind of squib. And then something else happens, and then they're like, okay, no, it's all definitely real. And they try to escape, but they can't. And it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty good. I thought it was more funny than terrifying to me. I thought it was, because it's silly. There's just like some silliness to it, even though it's played straight. There's some silliness to it that I enjoyed, and it's well done. You know, it's like it's just a well thought out script and stuff. Even though there's some holes here and there, but yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And the ending, I won't spoil the ending, but the ending, I was like, I bet there's going to be something like this, something like that happens, and then I'm like, okay, and then they're going to use that to do that, and lo and behold, that's what happened. So I was like, okay, I kind of saw that coming. I thought I was going to go a different way with it. They kind of zagged at the very end when I thought they were going to zig, but it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable nevertheless. So yeah, if you watch a trailer and you think you might like it, then you probably will. So that's what I got to say about it.
Yeah, it's one of those usually one of these movies with a big cast, like uh something like Knives Out or something like that, where you see a bunch of big name actors, people come in rolling in. Usually I'm not a big fan of those. And so when it comes to like this story and the way this is presented, I was like, it's really fascinating. Even at least just before the big twist, the first twist or whatever, as it were. Um, just the way the critiquing of um, the chef and how like uh, at first you think he's high and mighty and like like really haughty, but then you realize like it's almost like a case of depression for him
Hmm.
because it's like
He
being
hates
stuck in a
what
rut.
he's become, and someone
Yeah.
sees what he was, and so they will go like, they recognize that it's not about all this shit that he's like forced to do. It's about something more pure and simple than that. And when they recognize that, then he's like, he gets their respect.
And when he berates his own customers, like, oh yeah, it's like, you know,
Well, that was
it's
the other
like,
thing, is like, I'm like, these people, and they kind of show like these people are kind of gross, they're kind of terrible people or whatever. Spoiler alert, but I was like, I don't really think that they deserve to die, but they kind of come back with that, because it's like, because he's going to kill himself and kill everybody there. So he's obviously completely insane. Um, so it makes it go like, okay, that's where it's like some of the humor comes into me, because it's like he's completely insane. He thinks they deserve to die, and he deserves to die, and everybody deserves to die. So he's just gonna like take everybody out with him. It was it's it's just it's yeah, it's weird. But yeah, it's kind of like 12 Angry Men in that way, where or like Knives Out, um where it's like the cast is so big, you kind of can't really have them going everywhere and doing a bunch of stuff because it's just too much. You need the same people all in the same room, kind of playing off each other in order for it to work properly, because you're never going to give them all the camera time that they really deserve, the screen time that they really deserve. So yeah, it understands that, and it does that part fairly well, I thought.
All right. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you got a chance to watch it, and the fact that it's on Netflix means a lot of people will really get a chance to, take a look at it. Um, all right. Well, I guess we'll keep the talk about Apothecary Diaries until a future date. And just a real quick shout out. So we made a mistake last time, or correction, I did. So last time we were talking, and I confused Geely with
Jersey,
uh, Jersey Girls.
yeah,
So
Jersey
there was a
girl,
comment on our Jersey Girl. Yeah, my bad.
one girl, one
So
Jersey
the
girl.
um, well, so was it? Um, Conifer Conley commented on our last YouTube video where it was that we did get it mixed up, and it was funny because then I'm like, yeah, I mentioned it to you, and you're like, yeah, they came out like around the same time, didn't they? And it turns out they came out like a year apart from each other.
Mm,
So that was an easy mistake. So Jersey Girl was '04, while the
Geely.
Geely was '03. Funny enough, I was looking, I'm like, Geely was um, directed by uh, Martin Brest, and he's famous, but like I think this famously killed his career, or he gave up, because this is the same person who did The Scent of a Woman, Midnight Run, Meet Joe Black, Beverly Hills Cop. So like all of which
And
are like
nothing after.
you know um so the last film on directing credit was Geely. So like Meet Joe Black was 98, '03 was Geely. And if you just look, it's like all like sevens and eights, and also Geely's like 2 point something, like just completely tanked and then disappeared. Uh yeah, what a way to end. Like it wasn't a very long directing career. But like all the stuff he did was pretty gold, and then all of a sudden bam. So I was like,
When
dang man, that's
Yeah, it sounds like when a direct that sounds to me like a director like that maybe is getting tired of the job, like they're just not really cut out for it, and they're good at it, but they're just not really. They don't really have the drive to do it forever, and so they have all this stuff, and then they get to a movie that they don't really want to do, maybe, um, but they're who they are, so they have to kind of, and then they do it, and they can't do a good job, so it sucks, and then they're just like, yeah, I just don't really want to do this anymore, they and now they can't face the music, as it were. So they're just like, forget it. I have a bunch of money. I'll do something else. That sounds to me like what happened, because there's people who make bad movies and they just go, well, I just like to direct, so I'm just gonna go back to doing
yeah.
that. And they crawl their way out of it.
Well, this, it's like Geely ended up getting still has it currently sits at Rotten Tomatoes as a 6%.
Oh,
Viewers is at a 14%. So that's if only those two could combine and did the same thing to the director as they did like for Geely as they did for like if that would happen to Jersey Girl, because if Kevin Smith would have ended after Jersey Girl, I would have been happy with that. Jersey Girl, on the other hand, got a 42 sitting it currently and a 48 for the viewers. So substantially better, but
mm,
still pretty bad.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah, Geely was a planet killer. I remember not wanting to see that, being like, that's not really something I want to see. I was a kid at the time anyway, but like seeing like that doesn't seem like anything I want to see. But then them bringing it up on like Jay Leno and stuff all the time, it was just for the next like 6 months after it came out, it was just a whipping boy. And the butt of every joke was just about Geely because of how horrible it was, how bad it did, because it had big actors in it. It had some pretty big actors in it, and they survived. You know, their careers survived, but it was just like out of nowhere. Wait, this movie is horrible, and yeah, one of those weird things of life, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's just that's what happens when studio execs think the couple, the current Hollywood couple should make a film together because obviously their relationship didn't last much longer than G Lee either. So, Planet Killer, you said, well, also probably a relationship killer. So, all right, but that's why when Jersey Girl came out and Kevin Smith, one of his, like I said, post after like one of his interviews, looking back on it, he said like, it's like, yeah, after they broke up, he's like, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, it's another Bennifer movie." I'm like, I wanted to just send when I was sending out the invites, like I'm like, "Don't worry, she dead in the first 5 minutes," and I'm like,
Oh,
so yeah, it's like I don't know, it's one of the movies that like I think I never saw Geely, so I was like, but looking back and how bad it's still rated, like I'm like, I kind of think that's a great drinking game. We should visit that sometime, and then just look up a good drinking game to go along with it, and try to make the best of a bad situation. I
the worst of a
when
worst
when bad mo
situation.
Alright, but
Oh.
I just wanted to, like I said, just, retorting to a comment that was left behind about, correcting. So, yep, my bad. I got 2 bad movies mixed up together, but very distinct
They're pretty.
differences.
I mean, they're pretty similar. The fact that I didn't catch it, it means that they're. I was like, that sounds weird. I don't really remember it, but I was like, the fact that I didn't catch it is also. I mean, it's no smear on me. It just means that they are actually pretty similar. Same
Yeah.
within basically a year
Well,
of each other.
we
Horrible, you
and
know. Yeah.
but Ben Affleck's still going strong, so, better director than actor, some would say. So, yeah. All right. Well, if you made it to this point, we thank you. This has been another Dead Pixel, and episode 115. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you got for the people out there?
You know, um, if you ever have to wear a suit for any reason, you just want to make sure that the air conditioner is working properly. Can very
If you're
easily
holding
dehydrate.
your convention,
What?
if you're holding your convention, have your convention in the winter time, and just don't have the heat blasting. Just
Winter helps. Winter helps with the smell, and also prevents heat stroke. So yeah, that is just something you should always know.
all right. Well, until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye.